What's up, everyone? It's your girl Nija, and you're now tuned in to Our Music is Ours. Today, we're discussing what happened to Alexis Jordan. If you're from the US, you might remember her from America's Got Talent. Or from her single Happiness, or her feature on Sean Paul's Got to Love Ya. Now, if you're from outside the US, like in the UK or Australia, you may also remember her from Happiness or the slew of other singles she released from her debut album that didn't get released in the States. Alexis Jordan was born in Columbia, South Carolina, to an African-American mother and a Puerto Rican father. She's been singing since she was 2 and writing songs since 3rd grade. She comes from a very supportive family. Her mom was her manager, but also her hairstylist at times. Her Aunt Pam traveled with her.
This is the very first time I'm seeing her in the studio, and it's beyond words. I can't describe this. This is where she belongs.
Her little sister Taylor, who can also sing, did backup dancing for her shows and music videos. And early on in her career, her family made the sacrifice of moving to different states in pursuit of Alexis's dreams. One of these first moves was to Santa Clarita, California. There she would audition and land spots in a commercial as well as a role in a soap opera. At 12 years old, she opened for Smokey Robinson at a Stevie Wonder tribute concert. When she went backstage, Stevie, impressed, came up to her like, "You thought I didn't hear you?" And he started singing the song back to her. She was young when this happened, so she didn't really process the magnitude of that moment. But of course, when she got older and looking back on it, she realized how amazing that was. At 14, she auditioned for America's Got Talent, performing Whitney Houston's I Have Nothing, and got eliminated during the semifinals round. And at the time, she was very devastated about being eliminated, but her mom encouraged her to keep going.
Don't you cry, baby.
After she was eliminated, her family moved to Atlanta because of its music scene. There, her mom encouraged her to do covers on YouTube, and initially Alexis was skeptical.
My mom was like, "Okay, let's do YouTube," and I was like, "Mom, that's so weird. That's like me singing in front of a camera.
Put the camera down, Mom. Weirdo.
Anyone around the world can watch me.
Yeah.
So weird." And she's like, "Come on, let's just try it." And I was like, "All right." So I started putting them up, and people started loving them. Like, I would get hundreds of thousands of hits.
But as time went on, she got more and more into it, and her views grew tremendously. She would end up racking up millions of views on YouTube.
And I'm salt in your love. Anything that's worth having is sure enough worth fighting for. But who's been calling you lately? Who's willing to go half on the baby?
Then, one day, she gets an email from Stargate, the Norwegian production duo known for their hits like Beyonce's Irreplaceable and Chris Brown's With You. They reached out to her after seeing her cover of Rihanna's Take a Bow and asked her to fly to New York to come to their studio. She's young, so she doesn't know who these guys are, but she does her research and finds out that they're hit makers. And her mom fills everything out to make sure it's legit, and they go to New York. The first day she's there, the chemistry between them is crazy, and they start recording immediately. While she's in the booth recording, Jay-Z walks in and they tell her to come out the booth to meet him. She's nervous but tries to play it off when she greets him. She describes him as being very down to earth and personable. He warns her that it's never going to stop after this. At 16, she signed to Star Rock, which is a Sony-affiliated joint venture between Jay and Stargate. She spends 3 years recording her debut album while finishing up her schooling. In September 2010, she releases Happiness. It peaks at number 1 on the US Hot Dance Club Songs, number 3 on the UK Singles Chart, and on Australia's chart where it goes double platinum. It also tops the charts in a bunch of European countries. It goes gold in Belgium, New Zealand, and in the UK. To people in the United States, this would appear to be the only thing she's done. However, she would keep the momentum going internationally. She did a ton of UK press and performed at their award shows and festivals. She was kind of a big deal out in Europe. In late February 2011, she released her debut self-titled album. Alexis Jordan. It debuts at number 9 in the UK and in Scotland and number 11 in Australia. She quickly follows with the release of her second single, Good Girl, which becomes her second UK top 10 hit. Then she follows up with Hush Hush, which doesn't outpace her prior records, only rising to number 66 on the UK singles chart. That summer, she does Got to Love Ya with Sean Paul. It goes number 1 in 6 different countries, platinum in Australia, Germany, and Switzerland. It peaks at number 84 on the US Billboard chart, though it did go higher on some of the other more genre-specific US charts. After experiencing this international success, she goes back to the studio. 2 years later, a track leaks called Acid Rain, written by Sia. J. Cole is initially on it, but the version that gets released excludes him. It goes number 1 on the US dance chart, and by this time she's saying that her second album is almost done. A year goes by and there's still no album, but she puts out Gone. It's an urban record that is very different from anything she's released, and it goes nowhere. Also, during this time, 2014, she marries actor and dancer Luke Brodlick and gets released from Roc Nation. She puts out this tweet clarifying that she was released, not dropped, by Roc Nation.
Period.
And hinting that there was a bigger reason as to why, which of course led to more questions than answers from her fans. So, what's happened to her since? Nothing musically except for broken promises to her fans. She deleted all of her covers on YouTube. The only ones left are those that her fan pages saved. She's had 3 kids back to back. She seems to really enjoy motherhood and being a wife. She and her family are very religious, which was always the case, but it seems to have strengthened. Her rededication to those values seems to have made her not want to pursue music further. She's done some vlogs with her family, super cute ones, where they visit her at the time 104-year-old granny. Now, what went wrong? It always starts with the music. In her case, her music was too generic and pop, very bubblegum and safe. I partially blame the era because at the time the Euro dance pop sound was popular. Other big records from that era, just to put it in context, were Rihanna's We Found Love, J-Lo's On the Floor, Britney's Till the World Ends, Usher's DJ Got Us Falling in Love. Dance music was in, but there were other artists out there cutting through the noise like Bruno, Miguel, and Adele. This is the side of the spectrum that she should have been on instead of following trends. The music she was making was a waste of her voice. Too much Stargate. She was signed to them, so it was per the course that they'd be all over the album, but I think their sound is best done in complement with other more varied sound. This kind of makes me think singers shouldn't sign with producers because it can be very limiting creatively. Unless the producer and artist have unmatched chemistry, a la Toni Braxton and Babyface or Janet Jackson and Jimmy Jam, Terry Lewis. Note that Janet wasn't signed to them, but it wouldn't have been a bad label choice. The music lacks soul. She never connected with Black audiences who tend to be more supportive and loyal. And lastly, the music was just all over the place. She wanted to be universal, which isn't bad, but the genre exploration was too superficial. She needed to find a pocket and stick to it, but not the Eurodance pocket. Now that we've discussed what went wrong, let's discuss who's to blame. We'll start with her. Alexis Jordan's strengths are that she has a good mindset, she is hardworking with a lovely personality.
She's lovely, really lovely.
The weaknesses, on the other hand, are that 1, she said she wouldn't put out her best song first, and this isn't the way to go about it. You want to put your best work out there because you only get one impression. Like, Happiness was the only single that got released in the US besides Acid Rain. Number 2, a lack of willingness to compromise on image. She didn't necessarily have to show her assets, but her styling could have been more turned up. Her girl next door t-shirt and jeans vibe wasn't going to elevate her. Number 3, her mom was her manager. This is problematic because she didn't have the experience. I think hiring someone with a proven track record would have been more beneficial, and her mom could have still remained by her side, which I understand was important due to how nefarious the music business can be. And number 4, her last weakness is how she would eventually let her career fall to the wayside to be a mother and wife. If this is what she wanted, great, but if not, I'm disappointed, especially since her husband hasn't stopped working. Also, if the reason she stopped was due to religion, why not pivot and make music like Corinne Hawthorne or Mary or Lecrae and the like? Gospel exists. But ultimately, the onus for her failed career falls on her label. I feel this way because she was very malleable and that she could take direction and run with it. She brought the goods in terms of talent and looks. It was up to them to give her the music, styling, and the budget she needed to succeed. She proudly described Jay as being hands-off, but in retrospect, that wasn't good for her. That works when you have a strong creative vision for yourself. That works if you're a Prince type of artist, or a Rihanna, or a Kanye, or a Kendrick Lamar, but when you don't possess that high level of creativity, you need help. So I feel like had she had better guidance, she would have done better. Her label failed to promote her properly. They kind of gave up on her after Happiness didn't pop in the States and regulated her to solely international markets instead of continuing to push her in the States. Her album should not have been released until she could experience success everywhere. They should have instead had her put out EPs and mixtapes to build up her fan base. So this is what happened to Alexis Jordan. I'm curious to know if you were a fan. Do you want her to make a comeback? Where do you think she and her label went wrong? I want to know, so please comment down below. Thanks for watching.